As we all know by now, Sonic the Hedgehog made the jump to 3D pretty late. Despite this, however, Sonic Adventure was still a smash hit, both critically and financially. From there it's smooth sailing, right? Not quite. Sega had a nasty habit of making add-ons for the Genesis late in its lifespan, like the Sega CD, 32X, and the Sega Channel. The Sega Saturn was discontinued only 3 years after its release. This, as you could no doubt imagine, made consumers lose a lot of faith in Sega. Going into bankruptcy was pretty much inevitable for them, so Sega and Sonic Team figured they would go out with a bang, by giving their golden boy one last romp into the world of video games for his 10th anniversary. That game was Sonic Adventure 2. Was this one last hurrah for our blue hero? Only time will tell. Unlike the original Sonic Adventure that has 6 different storylines, Sonic Adventure 2 only has 2, Hero and Dark. So let's begin. After finding his grandfather's diary, Dr. Eggman bursts into the gun military base to steal a top secret weapon. Eggman releases the weapon deep inside the base, who he first believes to be Sonic. The mysterious being introduces himself as Shadow the Hedgehog and tells the Doctor to gather the 7 Chaos Emeralds and meet him aboard Space Colony Ark, a research facility that was shut down prior to the events of this game. Eggman heads back to his secret pyramid base, where he sees a news report claiming that Sonic the Hedgehog robbed the bank of a Chaos Emerald. But anyone with half a brain can clearly see this was Shadow's doing. It's here where we find out Shadow's motivation. 50 years ago, the Ark was shut down after the military grew fearful of the research experiments being produced there. Those who resisted were killed, one of them being Maria, who got Shadow to safety by launching him out of a capsule to Earth. Before bidding him farewell, Maria asks Shadow to keep his promise to her, but we're not quite sure what that promise is, as that's where the flashback ends. Shadow jumps to his own conclusion and decides to seek revenge against humanity. A few hours earlier, Sonic is arrested by a gun, though he soon escapes by snowboarding down the streets of San Francisco. Soon enough, Sonic comes face to face with Shadow. Shadow uses the Chaos Emerald to activate Chaos Control as a way of evading Sonic. Gun captures Sonic again and detains him on Prison Island. Meanwhile, Eggman makes his way onto the Ark to meet up with Shadow. There, Shadow reveals the Ark's most powerful weapon.
Not many people know that the Ark contained a top secret research facility, where weapons of mass destruction were being created. This is one of them, a weapon capable of destroying an entire planet, codenamed the Eclipse Cannon.
Unfortunately, they're not alone, as they're being spied on by a government agent named Rouge the Bat. She offers to help them gather the Chaos Emeralds for the purpose of finding out what they're up to. The three make their way to Prison Island to blow it up and steal the Chaos Emeralds located there. The plan comes to a dead halt when Amy mistakes Shadow for Sonic. Tails is also here to save Sonic after hearing of his capture. Amy breaks Sonic out of jail, but not before pointing out the writing on the walls of his cell. Sonic ventures into the forest where he meets Shadow once again. After the two have a bit of a scuffle, Sonic manages to make it off the island before it explodes, along with Tails and Amy. Since the villains now have 6 Chaos Emeralds to power the Eclipse Cannon, Dr. Eggman decides to demonstrate its power by firing a warning shot at the moon. This results in the moon being blown in half. Don't worry, it got better. After evading the authorities, Sonic and Tails trace Eggman's call to the President. Along the way, they also meet up with Knuckles, who's hunting for the pieces of the Master Emerald. Again. Meanwhile, aboard the Ark, Rouge shows Eggman a newspaper revealing that Tails has given the last Chaos Emerald as thanks for saving Station Square from a life-threatening missile attack. With help from Knuckles, the heroes locate Eggman's hidden pyramid base, where they catch a space shuttle to head straight for the Ark. Tails comes up with a plan to use a fake Chaos Emerald to make the Eclipse Cannon malfunction. Their plan would have gone swimmingly had they not brought Amy along, because as we all know, she's fucking useless. Sonic tries to hand Eggman the duplicate emerald in exchange for Amy, however that plan immediately backfires. Sonic gets launched out of space in an exploding capsule, leaving Tails to deal with Eggman. Sonic manages to survive by using Chaos Control of the fake emerald. After consulting Knuckles for help, Sonic makes one last ditch effort to destroy the cannon once and for all. Before Sonic reaches his destination, he's stopped by Shadow, where the two have a proper 1v1 match to decide the fate of the Earth. Back inside the space station, Tails is successful in beating Eggman. However, the Mad Doctor gets away with the last Chaos Emerald right under Tails' nose. After putting the final emerald into the Eclipse Cannon, a video of Eggman's late grandfather, Professor Joe Robotnik, starts to transmit all across the Earth. Gerald programmed the Ark to crash land into the Earth once all 7 emeralds are collected. He did this to get revenge on the military for murdering his granddaughter Maria. Sonic and the gang don't take this lightly, so everybody, including Eggman, teams up to stop the Ark from impacting the Earth. While all this is going on, Amy tries convincing Shadow to help, but he refuses, saying that the mission is now complete. Amy then pleads to Shadow to give humanity a second chance, and it's there when Shadow remembers what he promised to Maria, to give the people of Earth a chance to be happy. Sonic and Knuckles reach the core where they're attacked by the Bio-Lizard, the prototype of the Ultimate Life Form, Shadow's predecessor. This doesn't just come out of nowhere either. In an earlier part of the story, Rouge goes through the Ark's database, where she finds information on Project Shadow, detailing the creation of Shadow the Hedgehog. Not only do we see a picture of the Bio-Lizard, but the article that Rouge shows Shadow is actually a fully written article. Yeah, I'm not kidding, look it up. Shadow steps in to take on the Bio-Lizard, giving Sonic and Knuckles a chance to use the Master Emerald. Not being one to quit, the Bio-Lizard shoves the Ark of its rectum to keep it on its collision course. With all 7 emeralds in hand, Sonic and Shadow transform into their super forms to finish the job. After the Bio-Lizard has been defeated, Sonic and Shadow use Chaos Control to put the space station back in its place. With Shadow's promise to Maria now fulfilled, he slowly falls towards the Earth, presumed dead, one of his inhibitor rings being the only thing that Sonic could find. The game ends with the group returning to Earth as Sonic bids his farewell to Shadow the Hedgehog.
Sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog.
Sonic Adventure 2's story is picked apart for having a ton of plot holes among other things. This is just my fan theory, but in one of the flashback sequences in the first Sonic Adventure, Tikal stated that the Chaos Emeralds have the ability to transform thoughts into power. As cheesy as this is going to sound, I always assumed that Sonic activated Chaos Control just by believing that he could do it. Then again, maybe Tikal just meant that in a figurative sense. This is just my fan theory after all, so take everything I say with a pinch of salt. As for the controversy surrounding Professor Gerald, I actually think it's a great part of the story. It gives you just enough to piece together your own conclusion, yet it doesn't give you the actual answer. Here's my theory. The military shut down all the ongoing research aboard the Ark out of fear for the research experiments being done there. They threatened to kill anyone that didn't cooperate, which is why Maria got shot for helping Shadow. Let us not forget that Shadow was also one of the research experiments, so the likelihood is that they probably wanted him destroyed. Gerald then goes insane, sneaks back onto the Ark, and programs it to crash land into Earth. After that, the military finds out and arrests Gerald, ultimately leading to his execution. How did he upload this recording onto the Ark's database? Yeah, well, I'll give you that one. Am I the only one that just finds it fun to theorise about this stuff? I consider Sonic Adventure 2's story good for one reason. It keeps you thinking and discussing about it even after the game's been turned off. I honestly find it really ironic how the people who lambast this story the most are the ones that say stories in Sonic games don't really matter. And even then, if you really want to go there are a lot of other plot holes that are so insignificant you wouldn't even know they were there until somebody pointed them out to you. Try this one on for size. Tails was given the Chaos Emerald by the citizens of Station Square to say thanks for saving them, right? Well, technically, that's impossible. In the final parts of Sonic Adventure, Knuckles was in possession of 6 of the 7 Chaos Emeralds. The last one was being used to power the Tornado 2. My point being that while Sonic Adventure 2 has some blemishes as far as story is concerned, I think the plot does a good job of engaging the audience enough to the point where they don't really notice. One of my favourite cutscenes in the entire series is when Sonic tries to hand over the fake emerald. First of all, the smug look on Sonic's face quickly turns into a look of shock after being trapped inside the capsule. This shows that he's clearly underestimated Eggman. Secondly, I really like how Eggman tricks Tails into giving up the act, showing that while he's a mechanical genius, he's still a naive child. Lastly, Sonic's final words to his friends feel genuine. Nothing about this moment is taken as a joke, and we don't even get to see if Sonic got out okay until Tails beats Eggman, creating suspense. Yes, you know now that Sonic is alive and well, but what if you were a kid playing this on release day? This also completes Tails' transformation into a fully independent character. Not only does he have to triumph over evil without Sonic's help, but Tails also has to deal with the fact that he's possibly in charge of operations from now on. Shadow's also a pretty cool character. At the start of the game you don't really know much about him other than he's working for Eggman. It's only until all 7 Chaos Emeralds are placed inside the Eclipse Cannon does it feel like Eggman was really the pawn in Shadow's plan all along. I'm glad SA2 limits you to only 2 storylines, not counting the last story. It makes it easier for the audience to follow along, while making sure that both campaigns need to be played in order to get the full story. The script in this game is leagues ahead of SA1, and the voice actors seem a lot more comfortable in their roles this time around. Newcomer Scott Dry does a fantastic job of voicing Knuckles, making him sound much more intimidating and tough than he was in the last game. Same goes for David Humphrey, who gives a very reserved performance as Shadow the Hedgehog. Adventure 2's story caused a lot of controversy for being the first Sonic game to bring in darker elements. SA1 to an extent as well, but in hindsight that was really just a Sonic vs Eggman story. I feel that calling this game's story dark is a bit of an over-exaggeration. It's more mature than full-on dark. Having a character grow up with its audience is nothing new. Heck, I can think of 2 popular Nintendo games who did something similar, and nobody complained. Yet people seem to get hung up over Sonic doing it. The classic games never had dark stories, yes, but that's because Sonic 1, 2 and 3 never had a chance to be serious, because of system limitations. The closest thing you'll get to a darker plot in a classic Sonic game is Sonic CD's Bad Futures, and that's really stretching it. Although Sonic Sat.AM was a more serious version of Sonic, and everyone I seem to talk to loves that show, so I really don't know what to tell you at this point. Besides, this story still has plenty of fun and light-hearted moments. Most of these moments are contained within the last story. Admittedly, the whole government conspiracy was a little bit eyebrow-raising, but the game doesn't dwell on it too much, so it never became irksome for me. I'm going to be perfectly honest when I say the ending is probably one of my favourite video game endings of all time. It's beautiful. I'd be lying, however, if I said I didn't have any issues with this story. First of all, Amy's involvement. No, it's not the fact that she's here at all, in fact her talk with Shadow is probably one of the best moments in the game. Just how the heck did she get onto Prison Island in the first place? You're telling me a high-tech security prison can't detect a pink hedgehog in a dress? Are you shitting me? Wouldn't it have just made much more sense to have her tag along with Tails on his plane? Oh right, because then we wouldn't have the most hilarious joke in the world, Amy mistaking Shadow for Sonic. That's another thing that bothers me. Why do the people of Earth mistake Shadow for Sonic? Does the black skin and red stripes not give it away? I have no problem with Sonic being accused of stealing the emerald. Just because he's a hero, that doesn't mean he can't do wrong. If you're going to use the excuse that the news report was shot at night, well then okay, but at least try and have a silhouette or try and obscure Shadow in some way. Even Sonic X got that right. Otherwise it just makes everybody in this game look really fucking stupid. Above all, the part of this plot that bugs me the most is when Rouge attempts to steal the Chaos Emeralds from the Ark. Then Shadow comes in and says, and I quote,
Now I know who you are. You're that government spy, Rouge the Bat, aren't you?
and then threatens Rouge into not taking the emeralds. Shadow then goes off to stop Sonic, leaving Rouge alone with said Chaos Emeralds. Okay, first question. How does Shadow have knowledge of Rouge's existence? He was trapped in the military base, and I doubt Rouge was part of Gun at that time. Second, if Shadow knew who Rouge was, then why didn't he speak up earlier? And finally, why does Rouge not take the Chaos Emeralds anyway? Shadow's not going to do anything, he's too busy dealing with Sonic. I think we can all agree that the cutscene animations in SA1 were kind of, sort of...
Watch out! You're gonna crash! Ah!
shit. And in SA2, they're better, but not by much. The characters have more movement than they did before thanks to motion capture, but it's still limited. Shadow, Knuckles and Rouge's animations look fine if a little stiff. Characters like Sonic, Eggman and Amy on the other hand, move like marionette puppets. I get that they looked impressive for the time, but nowadays... ugh. Also, the sound mixing in some of these cutscenes is awful. Sometimes the music is so loud that you can't actually hear what the characters are saying, and in this cutscene it even sounds like Shadow's trying to shout over the music.
I'll take care of this while you run to get the Chaos Emerald!
That's enough story time though, let's move on to the gameplay. Sonic Adventure had 6 playable characters, each with their own gameplay style. SA2 decides to trim the fat by once again giving you 6 playable characters, but only 3 gameplay styles. Sonic and Shadow is your typical race to the goal scenario. Tails and Eggman use their mechs to shoot up enemies in the same vein as Gamma from Sonic Adventure. Lastly, Knuckles and Rouge hunt for Master Emerald Shard. It seems that Sega wanted to cut down on the amount of gameplay styles so they can build on the ones that worked. So let's see if that's the case. Both Sonic and Shadow's levels are very in your face and filled with set pieces like swinging on vines and snowboarding down the streets of San Francisco. These levels are great, though some would argue that they are a bit linear. Personally though, I don't mind it, as I feel a more action-packed stage fits better with the cinematic feeling of the narrative. Put it this way, in City Escape, the game isn't encouraging you to stop and look around. You may have noticed that Sonic isn't wearing his traditional getup, and by that I mean he's wearing different shoes. Mere months before SA2 was released, Sega made a deal with footwear company Soap. The deal was to have Sonic wear Soap branded shoes best suited for grinding. As such, Sonic and Shadow can now grind on rails. When grinding on a rail, you need to keep your balance by moving the control stick left and right to keep your speed up. You can switch rails by holding the control stick in the direction of the rail you want to jump to. I really like the idea of having to keep your balance to maintain your speed. It's kinda like curling up into a ball in the old games, you earn your speed. Jumping from rail to rail can be a bit finicky to the point where I've completely missed the rail, causing me to fall to my doom. The grinding mechanics would have been there regardless, the Soap shoes are just there for the sake of product placement. Although, I don't know if it's just me, but I do wish these shoes would return for later games. I don't know, they just look cool to me. Tails and Eggman's levels are pretty fun, especially when racking up large combos. I'm happy to say that the levels are longer than Gamma's stages without feeling drawn out. Although I think Gamma had the better control. The mech walkers can feel rather heavy, especially when jumping. Realistically, yes, it's a large piece of metal, so it shouldn't be able to jump 50 feet into the air. Keep in mind, however, that there's a two-tailed fox and an egg-shaped scientist in the cockpit of these things, so I think we can be a little bit more lenient with the realism. Case in point, Eggman's Cosmic Wall is one of my favourite Sonic levels, period, just because of how floaty you are. Granted, I don't find any of these stages terrible, and I still have a good time while playing most of them. Unfortunately, I feel a lot of them are rather claustrophobic, especially in levels like Prison Lane and Hidden Base. On the flip side, we have stages like Weapons Bed and Mission Street, which are very spacious and great for getting a good lock-on combo. I think I might be the only one that prefers the treasure hunting levels in this game over Adventure 1. They have plenty of room to utilise the character's climbing and gliding abilities, and at no point do I feel boxed in, give or take the odd level here and there. The only thing I don't like about these levels is the radar. In Sonic Adventure 1 you could detect multiple emerald pieces at the same time. The one that was closest to you would be the one that was beeping, preventing the system from being disorientating. In Sonic Adventure 2 you can only detect one emerald piece at a time, so you could end up finding an emerald piece accidentally without the radar even going off. Dear God, mad space. The gravity of certain planets makes it so that you can't just jump off a planetoid at will. Trust me when I say that there's a difference between watching shit and playing shit, and this level can be hell to travel through if you don't know how to navigate it. Both Sonic Adventure games had something to assist you finding the emeralds. Sonic Adventure 1 had Nicole, who would guide you to the nearest emerald piece. In Sonic Adventure 2, these floating televisions will give you cryptic hints which may or may not be useful to you. The first two hints are pretty vague, though the third hint will pretty much tell you its exact location. In Mad Space, the hints are reversed, as if I needed more reasons to hate this level. Unlike Sonic Adventure 1, there is no adventure fields or hub worlds of any sort. I like them, but again, not having them there keeps the plot flowing, and it gives the game as a whole better pacing. Speaking of better pacing, the power-ups have now been moved to the actual levels, and unlike SA1, you can skip the lecture if you really want to. Sonic's Lightspeed Dash upgrade is such an improvement, as you no longer need to charge it before using it. Just walk up to a trail of rings and press B. The problem with Sonic's upgrades is that the game maps all of his moves to one button. One of Sonic's new moves is the somersault, which you perform by pressing B. Say you wanted to use the Lightspeed Dash on a trail of rings on the ground. You may end up using the somersault instead, which can mess you up. The worst case is when you get the bounce bracelet, which allows Sonic to bounce around like a rubber ball. There's this one part of Crazy Gadget that requires you to homing attack robots and then Lightspeed Dash to get across. Sounds easy on paper, but if you're not lined up directly behind the trail of rings, you'll activate the bounce bracelet and fall to your death. When stuff like this happens, it really messes you up, which wouldn't be too big of a bother if it weren't for the ranking system. Every time you finish a level, you'll be given a rank, ranging from E to A. The more points you score, the higher your rank will be. Sometimes you can even score bonus points by doing very specific actions. For example, in Metal Harbor, you could grab the bottom part of the missile to safely get to the end of the stage, or you could risk dying trying to get to the top part. However, in doing so, you'll be rewarded with a bigger sum of bonus points. This is the main contributing factor as to why I don't mind the linear level design. These levels are less about exploration and more about mastery of the game itself. If you don't have the patience for a strict ranking system, you're probably not going to be able to fully enjoy these levels. You lose all your points every time you die, and that might turn some of you off. However, even if you do score a high grade, you're not quite done yet. Emblems return, and this time around there's 180 of them, and you're going to need to get an A rank in every level if you want to collect them all. This is the main reason as to why I don't mind the linearity of the levels. SA2 relies on an arcade style approach for its replayability. You need to know where to jump, what to grind on, and how fast to perform certain actions in order to get the best score. So what kind of level design do I prefer? Honestly, I like both. It's great to find previously undiscovered secrets in the classic games, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't fist pump every time I got an A rank. Which one you prefer is up to personal preference, but honestly I'm fine with both. But wait, you're not quite done yet. Oh no. Not only do you have to get an A rank on every stage, you have to get an A rank on every mission in said stage. Every stage has 4 extra missions. Collect 100 rings, find the Chow, clear the stage within a tight time limit, and clear hard mode. If you're playing one of the 2 extra driving stages, you have to not touch any walls or hit any cars. Just please no. If that wasn't hard enough for you, like I said, you have to get an A rank in every single mission. So if you're thinking about beating this game, I hope you don't have any plans, because you're going to be here for a while. Even after all this, you still have the Chow Garden to deal with. Chow are part of SA1, but they're much more complex here. When a Chow is born, it excels at one specific attribute. If a Chow becomes fertile and breeds with another Chow, the offspring will excel in both attributes. A Chow has 5 skills: swim, fly, run, power and stamina. You'll need to level up all these skills if you want to stand a chance in the Chow races and the new Chow Karate. Your Chow can gain experience from chaos drives and the animals that you find in the levels. You can also buy special fruits from the black market. The black market's also where you can buy special eggs. The more expensive the egg, the more powerful the Chow will be. In theory, by buying the most expensive eggs and through numerous breeding chains, you can produce an unstoppable god of a Chow. I couldn't really care about any of that though. I enjoyed the Chow Garden when I first played it as a 12-year-old, but as the years go by, I just don't really have time for this stuff. There's that, and if I don't really care to do this stuff in Pokemon, a series that I absolutely adore, then there's no way in hell I'm gonna do it here. I can honestly see why others get enjoyment out of this, and I didn't even mention all the extra stuff you can do with your Chow, like taking them to school to learn new activities. Though to say it's the only good part about this game is a little bit unfair if you ask me. Finally, after all this, the last thing you need to do is a boss rush mode, and again, the bosses are one of the weakest parts of the game for me. They're very simple and go down without much of a fight, with the exception of the 2 Bio-Lizard fights, which are some of the better bosses in the series. If you manage to do all this, you'll unlock a new stage, and not just any old stage, but a 3D representation of the original Green Hill Zone. This isn't like Sonic Generations either, where aesthetically the level is Green Hill Zone, but the level design is completely new. I mean it's Green Hill Act 1, flipped into the 3rd dimension, same enemy placement and all. In this day and age, this doesn't seem all that spectacular, but back when this game was initially released, I'd imagine that this would have been awesome for a Sonic fan. I wouldn't recommend pulling your hair out to get it, but hey, that's what Action Replay is for. Above all though, if there's one thing that everybody seems to talk positively about when this game's the subject, it's the soundtrack. It is true that SA1 had more genre variety. SA2 primarily uses rock for most of its levels, which can lead to some of the songs feeling a bit samey. However, when a track does stand out, I say it tops anything that SA1 had up its sleeve. And who could forget Knuckles' rap songs?
You know me, the fighting freak Knuckles, and we're at Pumpkin Hill. You ready? I ain't gonna let it get to me. I'm just gonna creep down in Pumpkin Hill. I got to find my little speed. I know that it's here. I can sense it in my feet.
They're shit, but I get the feeling that that's the point. And hey, they're sexy and smooth. Let's be real though, it's the vocal tracks that people remember. Not only do we get remixes of songs like It Doesn't Matter and Believe in Myself, which I actually prefer over their SA1 counterparts, hooray controversy, but we're also introduced to fan favourite songs like Escape from the City and the legendary Live and Learn. Come on, admit it, who knows these songs word for word? Yep, I thought so. So, what's the final verdict? Actually, this game kind of surprised me. I always saw Sonic Adventure 2 as simply okay. However, thanks to my most recent experience, I can say that Adventure 2 is an enjoyable experience. Is it a masterpiece? Oh god no, but I do think that fans and critics unfairly rip this game apart because of Sonic's more recent endeavours. It has flaws, yes, but like a lot of Sonic games in this day and age, its quality is heavily exaggerated. Sadly, Sonic Adventure 2 was not enough to keep the Dreamcast afloat. Thankfully, all was not lost for Sonic and the gang as Sega announced that they will become a third-party developer for Sony's PlayStation 2, Microsoft's Xbox, and even the Nintendo GameCube. The first game they made being a remake of Sonic Adventure 2 titled Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. Why is it called Battle? Because it has an awesome multiplayer mode. The Dreamcast version in multiplayer too, but the frame rate was worse than Sonic Boom's speed sections. In the original Dreamcast version, you could unlock characters like Tikal or Chaos from Sonic Adventure. In the remake, everything is unlocked from the start, and there's even more content here from before. Want to race with Sonic and Shadow? You can do that. Want to hunt for Emerald Shards? You can do that. Want to shoot each other up with mechs? You can do that too. The multiplayer in this game is fantastic, and I have so many fond memories of playing this with a good friend of mine. Thanks to the multiplayer alone, I can easily classify this as the superior version of SA2. The best part is that you can find it on Steam, PlayStation Network and Xbox Live, so if you're still unsure about whether you want to play this game or not, it's right there waiting for you should you choose to play it. Next time on the Sonic Retrospective, Sonic goes multi-platform with Sonic Heroes.